G'day, I'm Paul, and this is a one-off hand-built prototype of the new Lexus RZ. It is Lexus's first ground-up EV on its own EV bespoke platform, and today we're in a top secret hangar because we get to check it out and we also get to drive it as well. Now, I don't have a massive amount of information, but I will give you everything that I can. So today will be a bit of a preview of the car and also an indication of how it drives with the yoke steering wheel, which I'm very interested to see. We do know that this is going to be launched in 2023 and we're expecting it in Australia in mid-2023. And I'll run you through all the other details in a second. Now, if you do want to skip ahead to other parts of this video, you can use the time codes on the screen, or if you're on YouTube, you can scroll down and use the chapters below. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so you can find out every single time we drive a car that's been hand-built. Now, let's talk about the design. And before I start with that, it is bucketing down outside, Murphy's Law, so it actually looks way cooler in the sunlight, so we'll try and make do with what we have here. So this paint colour is interesting. So you've got the actual paint colour itself, but then it's multi-tone, and this is actually going to be available when the car goes on sale, and I think it looks so cool because you're basically just making this cut a different line through traffic. It just really stands out nicely. So down the bottom here, you'll notice, like with a lot of other EVs on the market, there is no sort of grille because you do have to cool motors and also the battery system, but typically that's all done down low here. So the whole concept of this top section is to mimic a grille that you would find on an internal combustion car, but here, obviously they don't need to do anything, but you still need it to have a face on it. So that's why that's all blanked out. And then you have these 3D elements down the side there as well. It's just a really sort of nice and imposing looking design. In here you have a set of LED headlights with an LED daytime running light. And over here, the Lexus logo with camera built into there and then parking sensors along the front. Come around to the side, I'll show you what these wheels look like. So again, pre-production, this might not be what the final design looks like, but 20-inch alloy wheels, machined finish on the outside and then a piano black finish on the inside there. Then you have this piano black stuff around the wheel arches. So you know that I'm not a fan of piano black, but it actually doesn't look too bad here when it is integrated into that wheel design. So I think that kind of looks okay, and then it continues down the side of the car as well. It's a fairly big SUV despite sort of appearances. Now, I'll run you through charging in a second before we go for a drive, but let's whip around the side of the car. Have a look at this profile. So that black continues from the bonnet all the way along the top. It has a full glass roof, and similar to the iX, it has a function that allows it to change between transparent and translucent with a push of a button. I love that that is making its way back into cars. We saw that on, it was Maybach's ages ago, and it's now sort of becoming trendy again, which I kind of like. The door handles are interesting, so you don't actually have anything that you pull. There is just a little button behind there, and you just give that a light tap, and then it unlocks the door for you to then open and close as you go. Around the back here, privacy glass, and that sort of tapers off towards the rear. Now this section here is interesting as well. So there's little spoilers on the top edge of that boot lip. And the whole point of that is to give you better stability with crosswinds. I just love that they think about this stuff as well. So what we're gonna do now is spin the car around and then we'll have a proper look at the back and also the boot. So let's check out the back as the rain starts properly falling down. You've got Lexus individual lettering here. I think we saw that on the LX that we tested recently as well. I think it looks pretty cool. It sort of just gives this whole rear end just a bit more width to it, especially when you look at things like this LED light that stretches all the way around the back there. And then you have the full LED tail lights as well. Then the badges down here, so RZ450E, Direct 4. Direct 4 is the designation for the all-wheel drive system, so they'll probably end up doing a two-wheel drive as well eventually, but that's what that stands for. And then down the bottom here, you've got this whole piano black section, so I'll be interested to see how well that dates. But in terms of just the design, I think this looks sensational. So I like the front, but the back, I think, to me, is where this looks the best. So this is shared with Toyota's EV on the same platform, the eTNGA platform, and I think this is definitely the better looking vehicle of the two. So let me know in the comments section below, do you like the look of this or do you prefer the Toyota, or are you gonna buy something else altogether? Let me know what you reckon down there. So we are inside the RZ. Look at that, I'm gonna get to that in just a second, but we'll start off with the key. This is what it looks like. So you've got lock, unlock, boot, a little bit of metal garnish around the side, and then Lexus logo on the back there. And it's a proximity sensing key. Got the door handles that I showed you earlier, and then the push button start up the top here. This is cool because, I don't know, I've been very outspoken about the Tesla yoke. I think it looks absolutely stupid and not very functional. I think it was an Edmunds video where they were test driving it and it was just all over the place. This, on the other hand, yes, it's a yoke, but it has variable steering ratio, which means that while you're out on the road, it's about 1/5 of the turning radius that you would have in a typical car. So it means when you do put a little bit of input in, it's actually quite a lot of steering input and you're never at a point where you need to cross over. And that's where something like this actually makes sense. And in addition to that, this is actually a steer-by-wire system. There is no physical mechanical connection between this yoke here and the wheels. So it's all electronic, which I reckon is just mind-blowing stuff. What they've also done is integrated all of your driving functions onto here as well. You've got your indicator on the side here, wipers over here, lights, and more wiper settings there. It is all just in this little cluster, which I think is pretty cool. So keen to take this for a bit of a spin and see exactly what this feels like behind the wheel, because this is something brand new to motoring, so that's pretty cool. In terms of the rest of the interior here, we're going to keep this a little condensed because this is a pre-production car. When we do finally get the chance to drive this, I'll take you through all of the finer details. But this will actually look familiar if you've seen some of our other Lexus reviews. It's a 14-inch screen, and behind the climate controls there, you actually have LCDs there as well, and it's a really nice high-resolution display. It comes with wireless smartphone mirroring in the form of Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I'll show you what they look like in the NX that we drove recently. It'll look very similar to this. Then there's a screen here ahead of the driver as well. I wish this screen was a bit bigger. It kind of has black sections off to the side, which I think cheapens the look a little bit. Given you've got the yoke here that gives you better visibility of it, it would have been nicer to see just a little bit more clarity just there. Down the center here, you've got this brushed sort of wood look and a little bit of piano black. There's also a new thing to Lexus. It's an electronic shifter, so you don't actually have a physical shifter for the car. This is an electronic system. And in addition to that, this entire interior is vegan, which is pretty impressive. Now let's talk about some of the other cool things around the cabin here. And again, this is my first time in this car, so I'm just pointing out everything that I see. USB-C connections down the bottom here. The roof, I mentioned earlier that it's very similar to the iX and some of the other cool cars that we've driven, because you press that button and immediately it goes dark. One more press and it lights up again, which I reckon is a pretty nice setup. Here on the door here, you have an LED light that projects an image onto the suede, and on that image you actually have, I guess, ambient lighting, but just a very different setup to what it normally looks like. You can run your hands across that and you can see it projected onto your hand there as well. So I reckon it's a pretty nice looking interior, and yeah, I'm keen to see what this feels like. So let's jump in the second row, see how much room there is, and then most importantly, go for a drive. Okay, so second row of the RZ. It's actually really roomy. So I've got stacks of knee room. Headroom is excellent too, despite having this panoramic roof. They also said that you can actually get a fabric cover for this as well if you don't like the glass. The only thing I don't like here is the toe room. It's sort of really compromised. The floor sits quite high, so my knees feel like they're sitting quite high. It was like this in my Model 3, and it was a little uncomfortable on longer distance drives. You do have map pockets in the back of the seats here, USB-C outlets, heated seats, plus an actual AC outlet to 150 watts. So I don't know if this car will get vehicle to load, but 150 watts is okay, but not amazing. Kia EV6, Ioniq 5, they do 3.6 kilowatts, so it would be nice to see a little bit more there. Center armrest here with 2 cup holders. Yeah, it's actually a nice place to be seated. I don't mind this at all. Now let's talk cargo. So this is my first time actually having a proper look at this car, so I'm hoping they've actually integrated some storage beneath the cargo floor. We don't have any numbers in terms of cargo storage, but this appears to actually be pretty decent in terms of what you can load into there. If we have a look beneath the cargo floor, it's actually really impressive. So you have this lower tier down here, and it sort of tucks into there. When you think about some of the EVs in this segment, you're looking at things like Ioniq 5, EV6. This is actually a far better way to package this, because if you have a dedicated EV platform, you may as well work around your motors and other things that you do have beneath that cargo floor. The way they've done this actually works really well, because you do have storage beneath there, which you don't get in EV6 and Ioniq 5 as well. Over on the sides, you have hooks and then a 12-volt outlet off to the side here as well. So pretty impressed with that. And it opens tall enough for me to stand under, which is good. If you do want to expand the space, you can drop that second row out of the way, and let's see if that folds flat. Yeah, it kind of does. It's actually not a bad load space there. You can kind of just cram in whatever you need to, so pretty impressed with that. Now, before we go for a spin, I want to run you through the electric side of things. Now, like I said, pre-production, so that's not meant to exist. This has both AC and DC charging. AC comes in the form of 11 kilowatt single phase and 3-phase, and DC comes in the form of 150 kilowatt on a CCS Type 2 plug. No more CHAdeMO, which is definitely good news. In terms of the battery itself, 71.4 kilowatt hours and a driving range of around 450 kilometres on the combined cycle. Okay, so we have hit the road in this hand-built prototype. I'm a little bit nervous, if I'm honest, because it is bucketing down outside, and I've been told to keep it safe and gentle. So, first things first, we're on this big sort of skid pad area. This is so weird. So I'm only having to do a little bit of steering input here, and that's full lock right there. My hands never have to cross over each other. So it's really fascinating that variable ratio steering setup means that you don't ever have to do the stuff that you would normally have to do in a car, which I find, I don't know, it'll take me a little while to get used to it, but I think it's pretty cool nevertheless. It's also cool having all of these controls here on the steering wheel and not having to think too much as you drive. It's all just happening. So paddle shifters up the top here to adjust your regen mode, and it looks like there's 4 different regen modes as I cycle through that. But it doesn't feel like there's any single pedal driving stuff, so it is all just sort of old school EV setup. This is so weird, I'm just trying to get used to it. Okay, now let me tell you the headline act here. So this is the all-wheel drive version. They're probably going to do other versions of the RZ as well, but the all-wheel drive version has a motor on the front, motor on the rear, and a combined output of 230 kilowatts of power, and that's 150 kilowatts at the front and 80 kilowatts at the rear. There's obviously no mechanical connection between the front and the rear, it's all just electronic, and that is Lexus's direct force system, right? So they're able to electronically control where that torque is going, and they can basically do anywhere from 100 to 0, 0 to 100. Just depends what the situation is. The car can manage to handle that. Now, 0 to 100 time is around 5.5 seconds according to Lexus, and we've got a little straight up the back here. So what I'm going to do is put this into sport mode. You've got normal, sport, eco, range, and custom. I'll put it onto sport mode. I'm just going to pin the throttle and we'll see how quick it is up against our stopwatch. So here we go. You ready, Sean? Okay. Gee, that's not bad. Wheel slip off the line there. Traction control light flashing. Away it goes, and there's 100 k's an hour. Bloody not bad. It actually just feels a lot quicker than I thought it would. They're also saying as well with that all-wheel drive system, they're able to make it pitch less when you're accelerating, and you do kind of feel that. It doesn't feel like it takes off towards the sky. In addition to that as well, this car has adaptive damping. That may not be standard across the range, but it is sort of standard here. This steering is very interesting. Very interesting. So the feedback through the wheel is odd, because typically with a normal car with a normal steering rack, you would feel everything coming through the wheel, whereas here there is no mechanical connection, but they do have these torque applicators on the steering to actually give you the feedback you need to have when you're driving the car. So it's a little hard to explain, because I can feel the bumps in the road through the seat, but I can't feel them through the wheel, but you do feel some inputs as you turn the wheel. Yeah, I know, I'm making absolutely no sense at the moment, but that is what I'm feeling. It is so wet out here, and I do not want to crash their hand-built prototype. So I'm not going to go too crazy, but we've got a hairpin around the back here, so let's line that up and just see what it feels like. Oh my God, it is so wet. Okay, here's our hairpin. Punt it around here. Yeah, the steering's interesting, because if you, especially when it's wet, if you throw lock on it, you're basically doing what you would do in a normal car, where you throw like 2 turns of lock. It's going to understeer, of course. And just back there, I kind of threw it in, and it tucked in. It's a really strange sensation, but yeah, I'm kind of liking it. And I can see why this wouldn't really work that well in Tesla's application, where it's all mechanical, because you actually then have to go hand over hand, and it doesn't really work that well. So, all right, next up, we have a little slalom set up here, and we'll pump this through there and see what it feels like with slightly faster driving. Okay, slalom time. Let's see what it's like around our tight slalom. I've left it in sport mode. Hopefully I don't knock any cones over. Gee, this has so much traction. Yeah, I'm actually interested with the steering. It has feedback even though there is no mechanical feedback. So I don't know. It is just doing my head in how this works, and I think it actually works pretty well. Now, just in terms of the rest of the car and the way that it sort of looks and feels here behind the wheel, this steering wheel being cut down at the top actually gives you good visibility through the front of the car. So you don't actually have that big mass up the top there that blocks off your display here. So I can clearly see down the front there, and it means that you are going to have a better sort of driving position in that sense, and the wheel sits nicely in the hand too and is pretty easy to adjust. Wing mirrors are nice and big, and visibility down the front of the car is good. Visibility out the back is good as well. So look, this has been a first drive for us, and I am keen to see what this is like when they do have the final production version of this car, because to me this feels sort of pretty production ready. I know they're going to iron out some of those kinks, but I'll be keen to see what it is like when we do finally get a production version on Australian roads. So let me know what you reckon in the comments section below. Are you excited for the Lexus RZ and it finally coming to Australia? Let me know what you think. I am keen for your feedback. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure you like it and you share it with your mates. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon, because I want to get out of the rain. Until next time, take it easy.